For 2,000 years, we have been told the history of the Christian Church, a story of spiritual devotion, miraculous origins, and divine guidance. But what if the greatest turning point in religious history had nothing to do with theology and everything to do with politics, power, and the stability of an empire? Forget the simple narrative you learned in school. Today, unseen history exposes the most stunning political fix of the ancient world. This is the story of how the powerful, pagan Roman Empire, under the reign of a single man, did not just tolerate Christianity, it engineered it. This is the political truth, how the Roman Empire invented the Christian Church. In the first 3 centuries AD, the movement that followed Jesus was not a unified church. It was a chaotic, decentralized maze of hundreds of competing sects, each with radically different beliefs. You had the Gnostics, who believed salvation came through secret knowledge, rejecting the physical world and much of the Old Testament. You had the Ebionites, who insisted followers must still strictly adhere to Jewish law. There was no single Bible, no single doctrine, and the debate over the true nature of Christ was literally tearing communities apart. Was Jesus fully man, fully God, or something else entirely? To the Roman elite, this internal chaos was simply a theological argument. But by the 4th century, as Christianity's numbers exploded, that chaos became an imperial threat. The Roman world was fracturing, and the last thing Emperor Constantine the Great needed was a vast, popular movement inside his empire constantly fighting itself. The spiritual argument had become a political problem that needed a political solution. Enter Constantine the Great. He didn't care about the Gnostics or the Ebionites. He cared about unity, taxation, and military strength. After his famous conversion, or political alignment, he saw Christianity not as a religion to be persecuted, but as a potential state-binding force to replace the dying pagan cults. But first, he had to standardize it. He understood a fundamental political truth. You cannot control a doctrine that doesn't exist. You cannot tax a church that is not unified. And you certainly cannot mobilize an army divided by fundamental disagreements over the nature of their own God. The year is 325 AD. The solution was not found in prayer or revelation, but in a political showdown unprecedented in religious history, the Council of Nicaea. Constantine summoned hundreds of bishops, many still bearing scars from previous Roman persecution, to Nicaea. His message was clear: unify, or face the consequences. The goal was not spiritual truth, but political agreement. The main subject, Arianism, the belief that Jesus was created by God and therefore not divine. This was a disagreement that could easily splinter the entire movement. Constantine, though not yet baptized, personally presided over the council. Ensuring the theological dispute was resolved politically. The result was the Nicene Creed, a precise, binding statement defining Christ as of the same substance as the Father. This was the moment the Roman state began its slow, deliberate takeover of Christian doctrine, standardizing a core belief that would allow the Church to function as a reliable, centralized administrative organ of the empire. This creed wasn't just theology, it was the foundation of imperial control. The Nicene Creed stabilized doctrine, But a second, equally important political move was necessary: the canonical fix. The emperor needed one official book, not a library of competing, contradictory texts. While the Church later claimed the New Testament canon was decided purely by spiritual means. The process served a clear political end: centralization. By the end of the 4th century, official lists began to appear, solidifying which Gospels and letters were acceptable and which were deemed heretical, like the various Gnostic texts, which offered a more democratic, decentralized view of faith that directly threatened the newly formed hierarchical structure. This wasn't just censorship, it was an act of imperial standardization. By defining the official source material, the Roman state ensured that all Christians taught the same lessons, followed the same structure, and owed allegiance to a single, recognizable authority. They chose the books that supported the newly established political doctrine, effectively burying the others in the desert sands of Egypt. With doctrine and scripture standardized, the Roman genius for organization took over. The Church's geographical structure was meticulously overlaid onto the empire's administrative map. The Roman dioceses became the Church's dioceses. The imperial concept of supreme authority became the basis for the highest spiritual office. The Bishop of Rome, in the heart of the collapsing Western Empire, was strategically elevated, while the East still debated theology. The Bishop of Rome was granted the political authority to act as a crucial stabilizing figure, a spiritual replacement for the fading emperor. The papacy, in its political sense, was born not from St. Peter, but from the pragmatic needs of the crumbling Roman state. This new Christian administration was a brilliant, self-replicating bureaucracy designed by Rome to survive Rome's own collapse, ensuring that even as the legions retreated, Roman influence, now draped in Christian robes, would remain the governing structure of Europe for the next 1,000 years. This is the dark political truth hidden beneath centuries of sermons and stained glass. The early Church, in its desire to survive and grow, made a pragmatic deal with the ultimate political machine, the Roman Empire. In exchange for safety and standardization, it ceded political control over its structure and its core narrative. The Christian Church we know today, centralized, hierarchical, and powerful, is a direct, engineered descendant of the Roman Empire's final great administrative invention. It is the greatest case of if you can't beat them, join them, and then control them. The secrets of the Gnostics, the chaos of the early sects, and the true political maneuverings were buried for stability. But as always in history, the truth leaves scars. This was unseen history. If you want to continue uncovering the secrets the ruling powers tried to hide, be sure to hit that subscribe button.